Good morning, everybody. It's another good day to be alive. Man, I think I got maybe about an hour of sleep last night because this word, it kept me up because I think it's something that is definitely something I need. And if I need it, then there's a chance that somebody else out there needs it too. Um, and I was going to talk about something else, but I decided to pray about it because it just it didn't sit right with me. And after I prayed about it, I felt like I needed to talk about something that we all are going through right now, and that most of us have experienced at some point during this time of social distancing. So, if I had to call this anything, I would say what to do in the dark. And the reason I'm saying that is because right now we are in the dark. We haven't been in this particular situation. We've been in situations like this before. Some people, some of us haven't been through anything like this at all. We don't know anything about social distancing. We're a people that we usually thrive on contact with other people. We thrive on that communication with the ability to be around people and interact. And for a lot of people, doing this is hard. Social distancing is not easy for a lot of people, especially if you have a family in the house. Even if you're in the house with somebody, or whether you be single or not, it doesn't matter. It can still be hard for you. And the crazy thing, and social distancing to me is just another fancy way of saying isolation. Because what we're doing, we're isolating ourselves from what's going on outside of the four walls of our own homes. We're isolating ourselves from large gatherings, isolating ourselves from interaction with a lot of people in order to prevent the spread of COVID and whatever's going on. So that's understandable. The other thing, though, that a lot of people could be dealing with right now is isolation within the four walls. Not just that, but I want to ask one question. Because this will be over at some point, but how are we going to look when this is all over? As individuals and as a collective, but more importantly as individuals, how are we going to look when this is all over? Are we going to be better than we were before we came into this? Like, we got to be honest. Are the things that we're doing going to contribute to our betterment, or are they going to hinder us when this is all over? So I just want to go over real quick. Good morning, Patricia. Good morning, Darren. I see y'all. So yeah, I'll ask that question again. How will we look when this is all over? Because like I said, this is going to be over at some point. We got to come to the terms that at some point we're going to reintegrate into this world of quote unquote normalcy. And we're going to have to deal with that, like whatever changes we've made to ourselves, whether they be good or bad, will be projected into this world. So that's one question I want us to focus on. And I have 7 different things we can do to make sure that when we do get on the other side of this, that we will be better. Because, this it's been something that's been on my mind for the last few days, and something that I've been struggling with too. Because it's easy to get lost in this. We're like, at first it was easy. Like you can find little routines, find little things to do around the house, find things to pass the time. You start watching shows on Netflix, and it seems easy. After a while, though, some of that stuff gets mundane. It starts to get boring. It starts to get dried out, and you might find yourself having ants in the pants. And the more that happens, the more we can tend to do stupid stuff as people. So that's what we have to be careful of. We have to make sure that we're on track of improving and not regressing as we go on in this situation. So I just want to go over real quick 7 things we can do to help us get through this and be better on the other side of it. So the first thing is to find your purpose. And if you got something to write down, I will write these down. So find your purpose is number 1. And the scripture for this point is Jeremiah 29:11, where it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." The part I want to focus on, it says, "For I know the plans I have for you." It doesn't say you know. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you." So he wants us to prosper, but he's the one that knows it. So what does that tell us? That tells us that in order for this to really ring true, we have to get close to God. We have to get closer to him because he's the one that knows what his plans are for us. And it's crazy because we often go outside of our purpose. Like I think we're probably the only creatures that God created that purposely go outside of what they were called to do, what we were put on this earth to do. You don't see a tree trying to be a bird. You don't see a tiger trying to be a dog. All of the things that God created operate in the purpose in which they were created. And it's hard because we're one of the only people, the only creatures that do that. So, and the way this relates to what we're going through right now is because this is twofold. Number one, in order to make sure that we're on the right track in the first place, we have to understand what our purpose is. Where are we going? What are we doing? Are the things that I'm doing wasting time? Are they in alignment with the purpose that God has for me? And number two, it forces us to get closer to God. And some people might think that, well, this verse doesn't make sense because I know what I want to do with my life. I got a vision for what I want to do in the future. And that's true. I agree with that 100%. But this verse didn't say nothing about vision. It said it's talking about the plans that God has for you, the purpose of your life. So the vision you have, that's what you see for you. God's plans or his purpose for your life is what God sees for you. So in order for that to be fulfilled, we have to get closer to God. And here's number two. The second thing is once we find our purpose, the second thing is do the work. We have to actually do the work, because it's one thing to know about it, but it's another thing to do something about it. And for this, I'll go to Proverbs 13:4, and this. The reason why I like Proverbs is because it's no nonsense. He didn't beat around the bush at all. It says, "A sluggard's appetite is never filled, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied." And a lot of us, we read this verse and we understand that it's not good to be a sluggard, that you'll usually not get what you want. And if you're diligent, you'll be rewarded for that. But the thing you have to pay attention to is it said the sluggard's appetite. Your appetite is inherent. It's something that you naturally have. Like if you wake up in the morning, you're going to have an appetite. You're naturally hungry. And it says a sluggard's appetite wouldn't be filled. The things that they actually need wouldn't be fulfilled. But the desires of the diligent, it didn't say the needs, it said the desires. So, of course, that encompasses the needs, but also the things that you want to do. But at the core of this is to actually do the work. We have to, with the knowledge that we have, with the understanding of our purpose and getting closer to God, now it's our time to actually do the work. If we know what our purpose is, let's do something about it. Let's not spend all day on Netflix and all day playing video games, even though that stuff is tempting. It might feel like that's the only thing we can do. We're in social isolation. We can't really go out and do stuff. So a lot of people want to stay on Facebook and, watch videos all day. That stuff is cool for entertainment purposes and has its time and place. But at the same time, we should still be about the Lord's business. Because God ain't giving us no pass to just sit and do nothing. Like, let's not confuse this COVID situation with a pass to just run amok and not worry about the responsibilities we have as Christians or as people called by God. We still have things that we have to do. And this is something I've been struggling with too. And that's why we have to understand our purpose, and then we can make sure that the actions we're doing are properly in line with what God has for us. So number 3 is trust God and don't give up. And there's a couple verses for this one. Philippians 4:13, and everybody knows this one. I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. And it's important to understand that within this verse is the most important is the 2 words through Christ. It's not like we can just do anything. It has to be through Christ. That goes to trusting in him. Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Verse 6, the most important part, in all your ways submit to him. Because a lot of us, we tend to want to, we want to give him a portion of what we do, or a portion of our lives. Like, you can have this, I'm going to submit this to you, but I don't want you to mess with this over here. I'm still working on that. And I've been guilty of that too. We don't want God to take control of everything, but we have to submit in all of our ways, submit to him. In everything that we do, we have to submit to him. That's to me the definition of fully trusting in God. And also with that, don't give up, because this is going to be really difficult for people, because we're in isolation, social distancing. You don't have a lot of the validation that you would normally get from the things that you do. You don't have people in your corner always rooting for you and telling you can do it. We're basically in the 4 walls trying to do what God told us to do. Once we're at this step, we're actually doing it, and we're having to trust God. And the reason I put don't give up in that is because we're not going to have the resources to be able to trust in people as much as we were before. So we're going to really have to trust in God, and it's going to be hard for a lot of people, because we like to feel something tangible. We like to feel that validation. We like to feel and see progress that we're making, but that won't always be the case in this situation. That's why it's important for us to trust in God with this. Number 4 is be good to others. Now, the reason this is important, let me see what Patricia said. She said, number 2, once found purpose, do the work. Yeah. I guess that was, okay. Yeah, Shatona was asking what number 2 was. Yeah, number 2 was do the work. And we were coming from Proverbs 13:4. So number 4 is be good to others. And the reason why I think this is so important, a lot of people that are in this situation, we might be, some are single and might not have to worry about being with other people. And that in and of itself is a whole different message. That could be pretty trying. But for some of us, we're in the home with people, and things can get tense. Tensions can rise. And this goes back to what I said at the very beginning. We're basically isolating ourselves from what's going on outside of the 4 walls, but within that, we have to be careful that we're not isolating ourselves within the 4 walls. And, you don't want to make it seem like the other people that are in the house with you are feeling lonely. They're not alone, but they're feeling lonely. You want the people with you to be able to facilitate their own kind of progress. You want to be able to help build that relationship, and that can be hard because we're seeing them way more than we usually do. People are getting on your nerves more. I ain't gonna beat around the bush. It's straight up. You with people enough, sometimes it's just gonna get on your nerves. But it comes back to Matthew 7:12. It says, "So in everything, do to others what you will have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets." That's pretty much the key. If you can keep that in your head, do to others as you would have them do to you. That'll definitely help with that, because it's real easy to get caught up in this thing where we're around these people so much. We're around our family so much more than we're used to being. And it's crazy because we can't go out and do some of the things that we normally do. And some people go out to give themselves a break from all of that. Or some people go to work and they consider that their break from being in the house. Since we can't do that, the chances for tension are increased. That's just mathematical. Like if there's always going to be a chance for tension to increase, if you're around those people more, mathematically, it only makes sense that the chances or the percentage of that happening is more frequent. So if that's the case, then we definitely have to keep this scripture at the forefront of our minds and our hearts. If we really want to get through this thing better than we came into it, we're going to have to keep all of these scriptures, but especially this one, at the forefront of our minds. The next one is simple, but for some reason, I don't think a lot of people don't, that especially right now, just not using it. Use wisdom. Ecclesiastes 2:14. The wise have eyes in their heads, while the fool walks in darkness. But I came to realize that the same fate overtakes them both. To me, the important part of this is where it says the wise have eyes in their heads, while fools walk in the darkness. So we're talking about using wisdom. If there's a pandemic going on, what kind of sense does it make to go to these events and these situations in which there's a lot of people gathering? Like that don't make no sense to me. Other people might disagree with it. I think is with where I'm coming from. To me, I don't think that's wise at all. Matter of fact, I think it's just plain stupid. Like we have to be careful with how we're operating, because the one thing you don't want to do, even if you're not at risk, it's not about fear, but just being wise. Even if we're not at risk, you can have the possibility of spreading it to somebody who is at risk. Like there's too many people dropping. People are basically dropping like flies. Like these people just got busted at a barbershop for having a party. Like number one, why would you have a party in a barbershop anyway? I think it was supposed to be like a video shoot, and it ended up turning into just a straight up party at a barbershop. And you know barbershops ain't that big. So if you having a party in there, you in close proximity. Like that's dumb. Like we can't do stuff like that. So even that's an extreme example. But even going out frequently just to do things and get fresh air, be wise about it. Like if there's something you have to do, make sure that you're protecting yourself, that you're wearing gloves or wearing a mask or whatever. Like you don't want to spread this and be the culprit of this thing getting worse than it needs to be. So I think this is important, because we can't get on the other side of this better if you can't get on the other side of this, period. So if you go out there and you're just constantly going out there and being rambunctious with this thing, and you catch it, and God forbid you are at risk, then it's likely that you won't even make it to the other side. So if we're talking about getting to the other side of this better than we were before, if you dead, common sense will tell you that you're not better off than you were before. So be wise with this thing. We got to use wisdom. Like we got to do better. When I heard about that thing with the barbershop, that tripped me out. Like, come on, y'all. That don't make no sense. Number 6, and this, we kind of hit on this on the first point. Being out there willy-nilly and don't even care. A lot of people are doing that. Like, I don't get, and I understand, like we want to be around people. We want to get fresh air. You can do those things. But at the same time, you have to be wise. If you're going to be around people, it should be people that you really know, who haven't really been going out and doing stuff like that. If you want to get some fresh air, like I understand wanting to jog and get exercise and all that, but go in the backyard and do some jumping jacks or something if it's really that important. Like, don't put yourself at risk like that. Just use wisdom. Number 6, we hit on this before, is get close to God. Um, you know, we talked about God's purpose for our lives. If we're getting closer to God, then we have a better understanding of what that purpose is. This verse, the verse that relates to this is James 4:8. It says, "Come near to God, and He will come near to you." And a lot of people might wonder why that's so important. It's because the closer you get to God and the closer He gets to you, the more His will is unveiled to you. So it makes it a little bit easier to make sure that your actions are in line with what He really wants you to do. It's an easy, well, I don't know if I'll say easy, but it's a very direct way of having a self-check of our actions, like the things that we're doing. Going back to what I said before, am I wasting time by doing this? And it's good. It's okay to take a break every once in a while. We all need that. You can't go 100 miles an hour and think you're going to be able to sustain anything productive. You can't do that over a long period of time. You have to take a break. But when it's taking a break becoming, just pure laziness or pure defiance of what God put you on this earth to do? Are we running away from what He told us to do? We can only know those things if we get closer to Him, because that's when His will starts to be unveiled to us. Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. The important part is do not be conform to the pattern of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So in order to get closer to God, it's not just saying, okay, I'm going to just pray once a day. I mean, that stuff does help. I'm going to read like one verse. Like you got to actually put the work in. If you're going to be transformed by the renewing, like transformation, it's not going to come easily. That's something that's going to take it's going to take some work. In order for us to really transform, we have to be putting in the work. Like, don't think that this is something automatic. If it was automatic, then by the time we are ready to go to the grave, we'd be nearly perfect. It's not automatic. It's not a time-based thing. It's not time-based. It's effort-based. The transformation is something that we actually have to want. In order to do that, we really have to get closer to God. Let me see. Yeah, it's very important, Shatona. This break is ordained and purposed by God. I believe that's true because, and this is kind of slightly deviating from this in a tiny amount, but at the same time, it really relates to it because we as a people, not just as people, but as a people, as Christians, as the body of Christ, we were definitely getting off track. I believe we were off track in a lot of ways, especially with the routine of church and doing things the way we were comfortable doing, even on the individual level. I think this is an opportunity for us to really get close to God, and not just get close to God. I keep saying that, but I don't even know how else to say it. It's really that important. Like, think of it like this: on a daily basis, are the things that I'm saying, the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm thinking, are they what God would approve of? That's an easy way to think about it. Would God approve of these things? If He's not, then common sense will tell you that you're not getting closer to God. I guess that's another way, like a foolproof way of checking on that. And of course, staying in His Word to actually know what He wants you to do. And that's kind of what I'm hitting at with some of these verses, just to kind of spark the conversation and spark some of the ideas of what we can all do on the individual level to get better on the other side of this. And the last point, number 7, the last thing we can do is to stay hopeful and don't bask in the valley. Don't bask in the valley. This isn't. It's definitely not a good time. There can be good that comes from it, but overall, it's not a good situation. I don't believe, unless we make it that. And a lot of people have lost family. A lot of people have lost loved ones and friends. And some people, and this is the crazy part, some people haven't lost anybody, but just seeing all the people dying has caused them to be sorrowful. They've had sorrow just from seeing all the losses going on. And there's a ton of reasons why people could be be down about this. It could be that you're not used to being by yourself. It could be a number of things. But Psalms 30, verse 5 says, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning." So it's important to realize that everything has a season. Even this situation is a season. Sorrow is a season. Rain comes before the sunshine. Spring comes right after winter. It's all in the season. It usually gets better as long as you stick it out. So even if you're having a hard time getting over some of the loss you've experienced or some of the sorrow you might be feeling from being isolated, just the understanding that this is a temporary season can help just that much more to help you get through this. Because it's important to stay hopeful. Without that hope, it's real hard to function. But the other part of this is what you do in the valley will determine how high you can get when it's time to start climbing. Understand that we are in the valley right now, and what you do right now while we're in the valley is going to determine how high you can get when this situation is over. If you sit back and rest on your laurels and don't do nothing, not even stuff for God, but just don't do anything, when we reintegrate back into this quote unquote normal society, it's a high chance that you'll get left behind in some way. And we ain't even talking about on the spiritual level. We're talking about just the basic necessities. If you don't do anything right now, when it's time to start climbing, it's going to be pretty tough. Your attitude in this situation is going to determine your altitude. There's a million different ways I could say this, but what you do in this valley, is going to determine how high you get when it's time to start climbing. So basically that statement sums up everything that we went over this morning. If we do all of these things, it's going to determine how high we get. In other words, it's going to determine whether we're better off at the end of this or whether we've fallen behind. And some people might not think it's important for us to do anything of significance or anything progressive or anything productive right now. And you could argue with that. You could say that, on the believing side, you could say that's true because if we were doing those things before, it's not going to be that detrimental to us if we just don't do anything right now. The other part of it is this. I don't know how long we've been doing this, and you can talk about the 21-day rule, but right now we're establishing habits for after this situation. If the habits you're forming right now are solidified so much that they are stuck with you, they're going to carry on after this is done, is over with. That's what I'm getting at. And you don't want, and I've been there before, to where you do something that you think is harmless, and you do it for a while, not knowing that when that situation is over, those actions are going to continue to carry over, and they're going to affect you long after that situation is done. And it's going to be way harder for you to get where you need to be because you took all this time to build negative, ineffective habits. That's part of what this is about, is building habits so we can actually survive this thing in a way in which we're not just where we were before we got into it. Like, you want to be better off than you were before with this situation. Don't get too lax. Like, this is real easy to get comfortable and not want to do what God put us on this earth, or even search to see what God put us on this earth to do, because some of us are still struggling with that. We're still trying to figure out exactly what it is that God put us on this earth to do. And that's always going to go back to the first point where we talked about finding your purpose. In order to properly do that, you have to get closer to God. And if you ask God to reveal it to you, he'll show you in some way, but he might show you, he works in mysterious ways. He might show you in a weird way you ain't expecting. He might force you to have to start reading the word more, or start watching sermons more, or something that gets you an understanding of his word, because that's the real way you're going to find that out, is by getting in his word and actually praying and talking to him, conversating with him. And notice I'm not saying talking at him, because a lot of the times when we pray, we just throw stuff at him. Lord, help me with this and help me with this. I'm dealing with that. But we don't ever just shut our mouths and listen to what he's got to say to us. It's a two-way street. It's a conversation. We have to realize that if we're coming to God, we're not just going to put demands on him and put him in a box. That ain't going to happen. God is not mocked. We have to open that dialogue and allow him to speak to us. That means we have to get quiet and really listen for his voice. And I'm telling you, if you get quiet, he will speak. You just gotta hear it. It's not gonna be in an orthodox way, and it's gonna be different for everybody. I can't tell you how it's gonna happen. It's gonna be different. The way that he speaks to me isn't the way that I've heard him speak to Brittany or anything like that. He might speak to her in a dream, but if I have a dream, it ain't gonna be. It's usually something ridiculous. It ain't gonna make no sense. But her dreams are they're basically real life. So in situations like that, that could be God speaking to her. It's gonna be different for everybody. But yeah. So real quick, I'm gonna go down this list of the 7 things. So number 1 was find your purpose. And as I'm going through these, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in there. This is also the time to go ahead and ask those questions about anything, or just comments on whatever you think we can do to get better. So number 1 was find your purpose. Number 2, do the work. So we know our purpose. Now it's time to do the work. Number 3, trust in God and don't give up, because it's going to be hard. So in order to get through this portion of it, you got to trust God and be determined enough to not give up. Number 4, be good to others, because none of this stuff is going to matter if we're not treating the people around us the way we need to. And this is hard. It's hard, but we got to do it. Keep that verse in your head, Matthew 7:12. And everything you do to others what you will have them do to you. It's that simple. It's real simple. If you don't want something to happen to you, don't do that to somebody else. And we've all been guilty of it. We just got to do better. We're all human. We make mistakes. Let's just get better. Number 5, use wisdom. Don't be just going out there all willy-nilly like, who said that? Patricia, I think. Don't be going out there all willy-nilly. You got to be smart. If you're going to go out there for something you need, then make sure you're going out there protected. Of course, you're protected by the blood of Christ, but also your human body is going out there. So you don't want to put yourself in a situation to where naturally you have something come on you that didn't have to in the first place because you didn't want to be wise. Number 6 is get close to God, and that's kind of a reiteration of number 1. And then number 7 was stay hopeful and don't bask in the valley. This is a valley. Don't bask in it. You hear about people basking in the sun, just basking in the essence, just taking it all in and kind of just sitting there and letting the effects of whatever's going on around them happen to them instead of actually doing something. Don't bask in this valley. Strengthen yourself, because after this valley, it's going to be an opportunity to go up. Notice I didn't say you're gonna go up. It's going to be an opportunity to go up. So that means you're going to have to develop the strength and the ability to climb when it is time to go up. In the valley, you don't have anything to climb. You have to get through the valley in order to get to the other side of the bottom of the other mountain or hill or whatever you're trying to get up. If you've developed the strength and have the resources and the tools to get up that mountain, now you can actually climb it. It's time to get up. Since you've gotten through the valley, Now it's time to get up. And God will help give you the strength. At the same time, give him something to bless. Don't just be sitting doing nothing. We don't have time to be sitting relaxing. And it's real easy to do it right now. But make sure that you're staying busy, because God, he'll bless you. But it's real helpful if he'll bless something that you've already been doing. The blessings of the Lord, he has no trouble to it. So do the work right now, and that'll further that blessing. So just remember that what you do in the valley will determine how high you can get when it's time to climb. We're going to open the floor to comments and questions. If anybody, she said 1, 2, and 3. What's going on, Ken? So number 1 was find your purpose. God knows the purpose for you. It's up to us to actually get close to God in order for that purpose to manifest in our lives and affect other people in a positive way. Number 2 was do the work, because it doesn't help to know the purpose or to as a matter of fact, it's really hard to be in God's purpose if you ain't doing nothing, because you can have a vision of where you want to be, but God's purpose is what he sees for you. And that could be something that affects many people. If we're not doing anything, how can that happen? So you really can't, it's hard to do number 1 if you don't do number 2. You have to do something. Number 3 was trust God and don't give up. And this was for Ken, because he said he missed it. And I'm going to read this from Shatona. She said, people are going through so much anxiety, loneliness, and depression right now. What coping skills can you offer? Well, as somebody that's been through depression and been through most of those situations, the one thing I can tell you is that developing a strong relationship with God helps. I tried all the natural stuff. When I was going through that situation, I tried the different pills and the different magnetic, whatever techniques they got and all this other stuff. It didn't do nothing. It didn't start making a turn for the better until I actually decided to build a relationship with God. And plus, I mean, common sense will tell you that the word of God has answers to, everything that you would need. And if you need direction for something like that, ask somebody. Basically every subject matter that you could go through is covered in the Bible somewhere. So to me, I'd say the best way to deal with that and the best way to cope would be to develop a relationship with God. And even if you're in a relationship, because this depression and this anxiety and all this stuff is hitting relationships too. It's hitting families. It's hitting married couples. The only plausible answer or plausible solution is always going to be getting closer to God. Because watch this, and I'm going to illustrate to you why it's important. So if you think about a triangle, and I should draw something. 1 second. Let me get something to draw with so you can see this. All right, I could have explained this by words, but I think this would be better with the visualization. Now this is probably going to be backwards, but it doesn't make a difference. So you can probably see this triangle. On either side, you have the husband, and then you have the wife. At the top of the triangle is God. Now, if you don't have to worry about the other person getting closer to God. You don't have to force them to do it. Drawing closer to God inherently draws you closer to your spouse. It's the natural law of the distance. The closer you get to God by law, and naturally you get closer to your spouse. So that's why it's important. I say if anybody's going through this situation in their marriage, if they're going through depression in general, you have to get closer to God. It's going to be the answer for most of this stuff. Now, within that answer are smaller and more particular answers that can deal with their situations, but it's always going to come back to, getting closer to God. If there's any more questions, y'all go ahead and drop them in. If you got any more comments, let me know. But yeah, I wanted to share this word with you guys because it was something I needed. And chances are, if I needed it, then somebody else needs it. Guaranteed. I guarantee that. So, hope you wrote these down. You can go back and watch it and take notes if you need to. If you got questions, you can drop a line to me. You can also drop a line to Daryl and Shatona. Anybody that you feel could give you biblical advice on what you're going through. This is something that I'm going through. And I prayed hard and asked God to reveal to me what it is I need to do. Because it was getting tough. But he revealed this stuff to me. And now it's actually time to actually do something with it. It's one thing to know, but it really doesn't have any effect until we actually do something about it, until we put our hands to the plow and get to work. So, use this information, use the scriptures I gave you, try to actually implement them into your lives, and let's get better. Let's do better. Let's be better than we were when we first came into this. Let's use wisdom also. Just in general, let's use wisdom because, there's too many people out there just doing stuff like nothing's going on. Yet and still we see people who are dying every day. And it's all ages. It's people that are healthy, people that got issues. We got to be careful. So that's all I got for this morning. I think Pastor Dylan's going to be on at 10:30. I'm not sure. But, somebody's going to be on at 10:30. Just tune in for that word. Thank you guys for checking this out. Hope it was a blessing to you. Y'all have a blessed day. And that's it. I'll see you on the other side. God bless.